Hi, welcome to MediatorPodcast.com, a podcast and video series about mediation, negotiation, and collaboration. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation and mediation services in St. Louis, Missouri. During this episode, we will discuss how an experienced mediator gets results with Elliot Herland, a mediator focused on workers' compensation cases based in Minneapolis, and he's also the vice chair of the ABA section of dispute resolution and on the membership committee. You talk about that a little bit when you run into a lot of different personalities. Like, how do you deal with some of those difficult ones? So you've presented the whole kind of process, or you presented kind of what to expect. But now you kind of start to see the personalities emerge.
I take good notes.
Okay.
So I know where people are going, and I get a sense of where people are going and how they feel, what they're needing. But you're right. And it's always important at the end to put all of the agreements in writing so that the person says, no, wait a minute, that isn't what I said. Because you want to get that out there so that if there's, like with a deposition, you need to make those corrections now, not when you're sitting in the courtroom and say, oh, that isn't what I meant. You need to make sure that people have an agreement in terms. But you're right. There are difficult people that you deal with. And especially,
what is the most difficult personality you think in a mediation?
Attorneys that don't like each other.
Okay.
Yeah, when attorneys don't like each other and there's ego trips going on, getting them to separate from their emotions, it can be challenging. You're dealing with angry people. If people aren't being civil, if they are inexperienced, if they're not prepared, if they're unrealistic, if they're scared, if they lack client control, if they don't understand the platform that you're using, Zoom, or how to behave in person, if there's mental illness involved, and that includes the attorneys. I mean, there are attorneys that have mental illnesses, and it's very important not to judge a person or make that person feel judged about their mental illness. You don't want people to feel strange. So lowering the temperature is important. You want, if someone is getting loud, you talk softer. You do not interrupt. You let that storm blow through. You validate their opinions without necessarily agreeing with them, and then you reframe it. I always ask people about the relationship between the parties. I already know the relationship between the attorneys in most cases. And I used to do a lot of joint sessions, but I found more and more that keeping people in separate rooms, I can hear the angry words about the malingering injured worker and the evil employer who's, been torturing me with counting screws for the past 2 months, or putting me in a room and not having anything. They're torturing me. And I can hear them, and they can feel like they've had their day in court. And then I can filter that, and I can reframe it and go into the other room, pass along the same information, but make it more palatable so that it reduces that feeling. So dealing with client control, that's, you want to ask the attorneys ahead of time if they need any assistance with client control, because you don't want to get in between that relationship. You don't want to do more than what you should, given the circumstances. Dealing with unrealistic things, again, that has to do with client control. Civility and respect, though, is extremely important. And that includes me, the mediator. I need to be respectful to every single person, even though the other side thinks that the client is an awful person or an awful company. I need to make everybody feel like I respect them. The other side might not, and they might know that they don't, but I do. I don't think you're a liar, even though I might think they're a liar. I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to trust me. So I need to trust them. That's the only way I'm going to get trust, is for them to feel trusted.
Well, and I think you've kind of shown a couple different ways, because, we'll do mediation with both parties in the same, I call it a room because it's a lot of Zoom right now,
Right.
but, with everybody on the screen. And then if things get kind of heated or something like that, we could go to breakout rooms and things like that. I clearly see that in the types of mediations you're doing, having them in caucus all the time is smart, because those, I guess, for a lot of the people, it is most important to that employee, right? And so if they hear those like cutting, whereas a lot of the other parties that are involved, not that this is just another case, but they've kind of, like, I've gone through this. Okay, let's go through. But they kind of bring it back around and say things that they might not traditionally say, or could hurt. And I think once you kind of get a real dagger, like a real hurtful dagger, you're going to continue to remember that, and you're going to maybe stick harder on your position than if you wouldn't have heard that. And I agree. Like, I can say that effing B, and you can go in and say, so they're not feeling really comfortable with you right now. You get the same vibe, or you get the same, that they're angry and we need to do something. But sometimes those really mean words can stick in there. Not that anybody, but they affect the negotiation is the hard part.
Sure. And sometimes one side doesn't understand the core hurts that someone has, but sometimes they do. Like, for instance, in a mediation where the injured worker is the son-in-law of the employer, oh, now you've got some really interesting things going on. Feelings of betrayal on both sides. Sometimes the employer thinks the insurer is messing with their employee. So now I've got a situation going on in that room. And it's like the employer and the employee ganging up on this insurer. That gets interesting.